Hello. Welcome back to Snugglewood, young Dreamlynx. My name is Arin. Snuggle down into your coziest quilt and let tonight's soothing tale and comforting sounds relieve you of any worries and guide you towards a deep, restful night's sleep under these beautiful stars above. And so our story begins in a place called Snuggleton and the sleepy giant tale of Moonlit Lake. Nestled in the heart of Snuggleton, beneath a sky beguiled by countless stars, there lay a secret guarded by time. The Moonlit Lake. Though its ripples whispered stories long lost to the waking world, its charm gently invited only those who sought peace, calm, and a reprieve from the busyness of thought. Tonight, under the soft glow of a crescent moon, hanging like an ivory cradle above, the lake glinted with a serene patience, waiting for adventurers to tread softly along its wooden shores. The world surrounding the moonlit lake seemed tuned to a slower tempo, a mesmerizing melody only the stars and still waters could play. The pathway leading toward the lake was cloaked in soft shadows, stretched long by the moonlight, their movement slow and hypnotic. The air, delicately cool, brushed across the cheeks of those who strolled here, not boasting of its presence, but promising comfort. As you wander closer, the earthy scent of moss and damp leaves mingles with the glowing sweetness of honeysuckle, a secret whisper of the forest's nocturnal symphony. Trees stood tall on either side of the trail, their silhouettes outlined against the night sky like ink-drawn sketches, their broad leaves weaving the most wonderful of lullabies as they swayed in unfathomable motion. The lake unveiled itself gradually. First, the soft glint of moonlight scattered across its glassy surface peeked into view through the gaps in the forest. Then, as the trail curved downward, the hidden masterpiece of Snuggleton came fully into sight. Every step closer tugged at an invisible thread of curiosity, crafted from sensations too soothing to resist. The lake unfolded into perspective like a gift unwrapped under the stars, a mirror stretching wide, capturing constellations in its delicate patterns. Its edges were framed by tender reeds, swaying gracefully at the gentle encouragement of a breeze, their golden tips brushing the air as if painting the silence. Nearby, the sound of nocturnal insects rose delicately, a choir of chirps, clicks, and soft buzzing, weaving new layers into the night. Their sounds lingered as though strumming the soft chords of a celestial harp, harmonizing with the occasional hoot of an owl hidden further in the forest. Everything felt measured. Wandering closer still, the ground beneath softened with moss, cushioned with the feathery remnants of pine needles and leaves. There seemed no urgency in the steps here. Each moment stretched languidly as time seemed to yawn and lay itself down to rest. A narrow pathway hugged the shoreline of the lake, weaving gently through the beds of forest asters and dew-laden ferns, sparkling softly under the gleam of moonlight's gaze. Each step unveiled something new to admire. Small stepping stones protruded near a shallow inlet, where the water kissed the earth in hushed whispers, and a pair of rabbits darted silently through the brush, a fleeting memory to cherish. Across the far bank, an ancient tree bent toward the lake's surface in quiet reverence, its branches long and thin, each appearing to delicately touch the water as if yearning to taste the purity of its depths. Beneath the tree lay a scattering of tiny mushrooms, their caps barely illuminated in cool moonbeams, reminding observers of fairy tale gardens whispered about in childhood dreams. The moonlight refracted subtle hints of silvery green and pale violet across patches of algae drifting lazily upon the surface, their patterns as transient as the dreams of the sleeping townsfolk beyond the forest's edge. Harmony ruled this space, an unspoken understanding written between dusk, water and shadow. Further along the shoreline, a curve revealed a small sandy cove, a gentle, shallow cradle carved into the land where smooth stones lay warmed by sunlit memory but chilled by the evening's breeze. Here, the lake gently lapped at its edges in rhythmic waves, a sound like the soothing articulation of breath. Kneeling by its banks, visitors could dip curious fingers into the water, feeling its soft chill and watching as ripples gently teased their fingertips. It seemed a simple gesture, yet one which transformed the lake's aura into something tangible, a place where comfort was endless. With each step around Moonlit Lake came a different view, a new moment to cherish and another invitation to rest. For those who wandered here under the stars' watchful twinkle, there existed nothing but peace, silent lessons in how to let go of worries and embrace tranquility amid life's chaos. The Moonlit Lake held within its depths not only the reflections of stars and moonlight, but also secrets as old as the forest. Its waters, miraculously clear, like liquid crystal, seemed to stretch infinitely downward, a mysterious abyss that hinted at worlds unseen. The surface rippled with the slightest of movements, as though it pulsed gently with the heartbeat of nature. This was not an ordinary lake. It was as if the water carried an unspoken promise, a quiet oath to guard its stillness from the clamour of the outside world. The lake, a being unto itself, watched over its visitors silently, offering solace while asking for nothing in return. The path continued to unfurl like a whispered story, curving tenderly around the edges of the lake. Each twist and turn carried with it a new chapter in this gentle tale. Low, overhanging branches stretched like outstretched arms, earthy and evergreen, forming canopies that mimicked the vast stretches of constellations now mirrored below. Their leaves rustled, muted, an almost imperceptible sound, adding a layer of texture to the quiet that covered this secret space. The trees seemed alive in their guardianship of the lake, their knotted roots anchoring them firmly into the soil as they leaned protectively over the water's crystalline surface. Further along the pathway, there appeared a small inlet framed by reeds that swayed with the slow rhythm of the evening breeze. These reeds did not merely sway, they seemed to dance, their slender forms bending elegantly, brushing the air as if conducting music only they could hear. Among them, tiny fireflies punctuated the night with their soft golden luminescence, floating in unpredictable patterns like lanterns drifting without an anchor. They cast a dreamlike glow upon the reeds and softly rippling water, bathing the scene in an otherworldly warmth that seemed to fold time into a single, eternal moment. The land around the pathway softened steadily as it reached closer to the heart of the lake. Moss blanketed the ground in luscious cushions of emerald and jade tones, growing thick and yielding underfoot. Stepping carefully along this part of the trail felt like walking across the weave of a mystical tapestry, with each tuft of moss contributing to the story beneath each visitor's feet. Occasionally, delicate wildflowers peeked out from the greenery, a burst of soft yellows and purples that added a soft vibrancy without intruding on the tranquility. These flowers, kissed by the natural dew of the night, seemed untouched by time, their petals perfect under the starlit sky. Then, nearing the far side of the lake, the forest opened slightly, revealing a shallow glade bathed in the moon's gentle gleam. The glade appeared as a natural amphitheatre, surrounded by arching willows that dipped their wispy branches into the water like ancient storytellers whispering forgotten tales to the lake's warmth. Their long tendrils glistened with drops of dew that caught the soft moonlight, refracting into countless miniature rainbows that lasted but a breath before disappearing into the shadows. The soundscape adjusted slightly, the gentle rustling of leaves blending seamlessly with the soft chirping of nighttime crickets. Near the glade's centre, a cluster of smooth stones created a natural resting place, a quiet invitation to pause and reflect. Each stone, polished smooth by centuries of wind and water, radiated a coolness that offered relief to weary feet and wandering thoughts. Some were large enough to sit upon, overlooking the lake's expanse, while others were small and perfect for the idle hands of those who sought to skip stones across the water's placid surface. The sound of each gentle plop as the stones met the lake rippled outward, momentarily breaking the water's stillness before silence returned. Farther still, there emerged a small island, barely visible across the lake. A secluded patch of land ornamented with a single grand tree standing at its centre. Its gnarled branches reached skyward like a plea to the heavens, adorned with the fairest blossoms of silvery white. This tree, untouched by the passing of seasons, stood as a monument of eternal tranquility. Though distant, its presence was profoundly felt, an anchor for the serenity that pervaded Moonlit Lake. It seemed to exude a quiet wisdom that could be sensed even from the shore, a beacon for those who dared to dream within the folds of the night. The stars, millions in number, held their positions like an endless tapestry of tiny lights. Yet there was no urgency here, no rush to mark the passage of time. Instead, every breath, every ripple across the water, and every sway of reeds told its own story, a narrative not bound by clocks, but by the natural rhythm of the universe. Through the woodlands that bordered the lake, deeper into the forest's heart, lay a hidden meadow known only to the most patient wanderers. Here, the glow of the moonlight pooled delicately, collecting amongst the tall grasses and blossoming lilies that swayed in unison. The meadow felt sacred, an untouched world that offered itself solely to the stars above. The air carried subtle fragrances, the musky scent of forest soil mixed with the delicate sweetness of blooming nightshade. Each inhalation here seemed to soothe frayed senses, filling the mind with a vast quiet that left no space for worry. Occasionally, a gentle gust of air would carry with it other sounds from deeper within the forest. Perhaps the undetectable rustle of deer, cautiously exploring the night, or the muted splashes of fish in the lake, testing the stillness of their domain. These sounds served as reminders that Moonlit Lake was alive. Its tranquility, not the absence of life, but a harmonious equilibrium where all creatures moved in balance with the night. The trail that wound around the lake eventually returned to the reeds and ferns where the story began. This cyclical path seemed intentional, a circle of calmness that whispered of interconnectedness and gentle closure. Visitors, having wandered the entirety of Moonlit Lake's edges, left not with a sense of finality, but with a subtle knowledge that the lake would always remain, waiting patiently for their return. A timeless haven, cradled in the arms of its gentle forest. For as long as the stars continued their eternal watch, the Moonlit Lake would endure, a keeper of quiet beneath the moon's watchful gaze. And as the starlit night deepened, the lake offered not only a place of rest, but also a quiet reminder that even amidst life's hurried nature, there existed sanctuaries of stillness, where one could breathe deeply, linger softly, and perhaps rediscover the comforting rhythm of serenity. The path beyond the meadow continued under the canopy of wise trees, their towering forms twisting and reaching as though sculpted by time's presence. These woodland elders stood in solemn silence, their bark etched with moss and lichen that gleamed in the moonlight. The air here was heavier, but comforting, steeped in the earthly aromas of pine, cedar, and the faint trace of damp leaves blanketing the forest floor. Wisps of mist curled around the base of the trees, threading through the undergrowth like spectral veins of moonlight come to life. Each step deeper into this hidden wonderland felt like an invitation to step back in time, to discover a world untouched by the clamour of the waking world. The trail now narrowed, weaving gently around low-lying underbrush that seemed to bow in deference to the peace of the evening. Small creatures stirred softly in the dark, their movements subtle and unintrusive, a rustling here, a fluttering of wings there. Somewhere in the distance, the hauntingly beautiful call of an owl echoed through the air, its cry rising and falling like a question whispered to the night. This sound formed a melody that complemented the rhythm of footfalls on the soft earth. The deeper into the forest you ventured, the more the world outside seemed to fade, replaced entirely by this nocturnal sanctuary. Then, around a gentle bend in the path, a small clearing unexpectedly opened before you. Nestled at its centre was another quiet marvel, a brook that meandered lazily through the heart of the glade. Its waters mirrored like liquid silver under the moon's gaze, reflecting moving patterns of the star-filled sky above. The brook's surface seemed alive, dancing and rippling with the subtlest of movements as it wove its way over smooth stones scattered across its path. A wooden bridge arched over the brook, timeless in its appearance, its weathered beams dusted with moss. Crossing it felt like stepping into a storybook, each creak of the wood beneath your feet a thread pulling you further into this world of serene wonder. Beyond the brook, the forest's character morphed once more. The trees here grew wider apart, their thick, knotted roots spilling outward like ancient arms reaching across the forest floor. These roots formed natural seats and benches, inviting weary travellers to pause and absorb the grandeur of the woodland. Above, gaps in the leafy canopy revealed patches of the night sky, where constellations glittered like scattered jewels. Standing here, it was impossible not to feel a sense of connection. A sense that these very stars had illuminated this place countless times before, watching silently as the forest grew over centuries. The trail led onwards, now strewn with soft pine needles that muffled even the quietest footfalls. The path meandered through a grove of aspens, their pale, ghost-like trunks glowing softly beneath the moon's gaze. These slender trees swayed in unison with the lightest of breezes, their leaves whispering secrets that had passed between wind and wood for generations. The aspens marked a gentle transition, guiding travellers toward yet another hidden wonder of Moonlit Lake, the sleeping giant. It was only after several more steps that the outline of the giant came into view. Rising at the far edge of the lake was an immense hill, cloaked in layers of forest and shadows, with a distinctive, undulating form that resembled a figure lying at rest. The sleeping giant, as the locals called it, seemed both serene and imposing, a slumbering guardian cradling the landscape of its ancient arms. The hill's silhouette was framed by the delicate luminescent glow of the stars, lending to a beautiful quality that made it feel alive, as though it were truly breathing in tandem with the night. The base of the giant hosted yet another marvel, a series of cascading terraces where water flowed softly from one level to the next. These terraces, carved over time by natural forces, sparkled intriguingly as though flecked with crystalline shards that caught and refracted the moonlight. The sound of water trickling down, slow and unhurried, filled the air with a soothing aura that calmed even the weariest of thoughts. Visitors often found themselves drawn to this sacred place, where the atmosphere carried a profound peace, untouched by the passage of time. To sit here at the foot of the sleeping giant was to experience a rare tranquility, the kind that allowed the mind to wander freely and remind itself of forgotten joys. For some, inspiration seemed to rise, carried on the soft murmurs of the cascading water. For others, this place was one of surrender, a chance to leave behind burdens too heavy to carry into the giant's domain. Either way, the night seemed to soften around those who lingered there, wrapping them gently in a cocoon of quiet serenity. The path encircling the sleeping giant eventually led upward, cresting a gradual incline toward the hill's summit. The ascent was not steep, but it encouraged a slower pace, one that allowed for lingering glances at the majestic scenery surrounding the trail. The closer you came to the peak, the wider the vistas became, revealing a panoramic view of Moonlit Lake below. The waters sparkled with the moonlight, their surface now so distant it appeared as though a mirror had been etched into the earth. The surrounding forest stretched endlessly, a sea of dark green crowned by the silver traces of moonlight peering through the treetop. And so, with the first light of dawn beginning to stretch across the horizon, Moonlit Lake gradually shifted from its tranquil nocturne into the quiet promise of a new day. The stars began their retreat, fading one by one into the soft glow of morning, while the forest stirred gently into life. The stillness of night gave way to the rustling scrabble of leaves in the growing breeze and the distant calls of awakening birds. Yet the lake remained steady, its waters unbroken and serene, reflecting the pastel hues of the rising sun. For those who had wandered its paths and rested by its shores, the lake offered its parting gift, lasting sense of peace, carried forward like a soft melody, playing in the quiet recesses of their minds. Moonlit Lake was not merely a place, but a feeling, a peaceful sanctuary, awaiting whenever their hearts yearned for solace, once